let's try this out. I don't know, this is a little bit of an experiment. I've been on a journey to hike every trail, pack every trail in Olympic National Park. And so I thought as I'm doing that, I would share that on YouTube. I'm sure there's a million videos about this. The irony is that I actually am almost done doing that. Hiking every trail in the park. I think it's over 600 miles. I'll have to get the exact mileage on that. But I didn't record all of it. So I was thinking of maybe doing it over and starting again. So I'm picking Royal Basin, which is a pretty famous hike backpacking trip in the park, and pretty popular. So it's a good short one. I think it's only 7 miles in, like 3,000 foot gain or something like that. But then I'm going to do a second day on a trail nearby. But anyway, this will be an experiment. Let's see if this is something people are interested in. And maybe even though I'm probably over 2/3 of the way done hiking every trail in the park, in Olympic National Park. But because I didn't record it all, let's start over and do it again on camera. So we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you posted as I go on this one. Okay, so here we are at the trailhead and main parking lot for Royal Basin. This is the main parking lot. There's an overflow parking lot across the water, across the bridge. It's empty right now, but lots of cars, but not full. And yeah, there's the kit, and we're packing the poles and the car. So yeah, here's the bridge between the parking lots at the trailhead and the creek. Pretty full right now, as you can see, and the trailhead is right over there. There's the overflow, and here is the trailhead. Okay, coming up to the first junction here on the trail. I was actually wrong earlier. That's the main water flow where the bridge was. So the trailhead is actually the Dungeness River, start of the Dungeness River, which is right at this junction. And then that bridge over there crosses that. And up above it is Royal Creek. And this is the split off. To the other direction to the left is Heather Creek, I believe. And I'll be trying that out tomorrow on a second leg. But to the right is Royal, up to Royal Basin and following Royal Creek up there. So let's go down to the bridge and check it out. There's a nice little kind of picnic area here. I don't think you can camp here, probably not supposed to. I'm sure people do. And then of course, there's the sign. First time I did this trail, I actually missed this sign somehow and went across the bridge and went up Heather Basin Trail for quite a while before I realized I was off track and had to come back, and found that I had just missed the sign and had to go back up the trail that way toward Royal Basin. So we won't be going across the bridge this time. Nice footbridge though. I don't know if you can hear me with the water, but the flow is pretty good. It's late in the day, so it'll be higher. I think it's like 2 or 3. I got a late start, but it's a short trail, so it should be fine. Well, that's a bummer. I don't remember what that sign said, but I think here, maybe it's a park boundary now, or no stow basin, so There we go. Even though I'm just walking, I do like to kind of, when you're on the trail for basically 12 hours a day, and usually I only take about an hour break with a couple 15-minute breaks or so along the way. So you're walking almost the whole day, right? Basically, except for a day like this, dawn to dusk, at least. I do like to think about technique a little bit, even though it's just walking. Try at a steady state to keep my heart rate around 120, and then between, not to go over 140, depending on the incline. Take breaks and rest. Last summer, 2024, I had a couple early season injuries that basically took me out for the rest of the season for any serious backpacking. So this season, this is really only the first real trip back. I'm pretty out of shape. I've been doing some training at home, cardio, and some local hikes. It's not enough. The only real way to train for backpacking in the wilderness, especially subalpine and alpine, is to do it, as they say. So you got to get out there, no matter the weather or time of year, if you can do it. But I like to think about technique. Even now that I've had some injuries, I'm thinking more about my footfalls, balancing those out so there's no point of my foot that is stressed more than the others. The way I use my poles, full body, equal distribution. So my knees aren't taking all of the brunt. My arms and the poles are also acting as shock absorbers. I've read that it can absorb up to 25% of the pressure going downhill, which when you're doing that for miles and miles, really pounds your knees, especially if you're old like me. So, stuff I think about. I love coming upon runoff spots like this. Obviously this group bed is dry at this point, mid-July or so, but you're starting to see the alpine and higher elevations where you're going to be eventually getting to. So it's kind of sometimes a little bit unreal that you get up there. Now we're getting into the real backcountry due to this sign. There's a few small campsites like this near the stream. This is still Royal Creek, I believe. Hopefully you can hear me. Pretty nice spot, actually. Pretty close to the water though, but still nice. But yeah, this is a little forested area before I start heading back up. So yeah, here we go. This would definitely be a little bit trickier if this were at full flow. You can see the trail. It's going up along the side of this bed, and then cuts out on the other side. But luckily it's dry now. In Olympic, your feet are wet a lot of the time, especially early season and on the west side of the park, so you can be ready for that. Nothing you can do about it. I just wear trail runners, and if I have to do water crossing, you just go through with your shoes on. Don't take them off. No gaiters. And then you just get them wet, and then they dry in about a half hour. Tall meadow, a little bit of flowers still bloomed. It's getting a little bit later, so the sun will be behind the mountains in a bit, but I have plenty of time this time of year just to see how tall tall these meadows are sometimes you're having to walk through. And again, it's very lush park. And I'm even on the west side, or sorry, the east side, so it's drier over here. Bumblebee in action. It's interesting. This is the first big hike. Basically, I've been off of long trips for about a year because of the injury last year. I basically overdid it on I think a 22-mile day downhill and pounded my feet so bad that, I injured them and my shin just for stress, overstressing it. So it's taken me a year, and they're starting to actually hurt a little bit right now. I have new shoes, Speed Goats from Hoka, which are great, and I think I'll be fine for this trip, but it's interesting how they're still not fully healed after a year at my age. But also, I wanted to mention that it's a little too early for berries, but this is going to be a blueberry bush, or I think it's blueberries or huckleberries, and there's a few other berry bushes here that the bears will start chomping on in this area. So it's cool to see that you kind of know what elevation you're at by those bushes. I'll have to check and get the real info on if they're blueberries or huckleberries or what kind of berries they are, but they look like blueberries. You can eat them, but the bears love them. So, but way too early right now. Mid to late August, I think. Definitely feeling it. It's getting pretty steep. You can see the mountains. I believe that's Royal Basin. So I don't think I'm too far. I think it's 5 o'clock. Even with filming, I've made pretty good time, I guess, but still feeling out of shape. I escaped that family of deer, finally. The advantage and disadvantage of hiking at this time of day is when I see the most animals, including most of my bear. But it also means you're disturbing their time when they should be out eating peacefully without you. Some nice flowers along this trail too, though. So definitely getting up there. Starting to see that subalpine, which is my favorite. Bug down the throat. Some great flowers here, though. Okay, I remember this from last time. As it's going on the steeper incline, thank goodness for trail workers. Shout out to one of the hardest jobs, come into the backcountry, build a staircase in the middle of nowhere, so we have an easier time. Obviously, it's also better for the trail and the environment if it doesn't erode, but hard work, and shout out to them, those trail crews. Okay, we're pretty far up now. You can see the creek is pretty deep and flowing. It's pretty nice, actually. Look how clear it is, all snow runoff. I think the meadows are coming up here pretty quick. So the lower Royal Meadows, I think is what it's called. So yeah, mosquitoes are still kind of bad. Wow. Here's the meadow. Flowers still out, at least some. Mosquitoes are terrible though. I think I hit it at the perfectly wrong time. They're not biting too bad though, so might be okay. We'll see. There's camp over there, empty. There's camps all through here actually. I didn't think middle of the week it'd be too busy, so I've seen mainly groups, probably half a dozen to 8 groups or so leaving. Most everyone else probably got here way earlier than me though. I'll leave you with this. Well, this will be fun to cross. No hand railings here. I'm not going to film this, but see you on the other side. There's something about the anticipation of getting to a lake or any really significant landmark, and as you come up to it, you can tell it's coming even before you see it. And I had a feeling Royal Lake was above, beyond, and here we are. And there's the range, the mountains that we've been seeing from below. Now we're in the basin. And always breathtaking for me. Mosquitoes are everywhere. And there's the trail continues on to the upper basin, which I'm going to attempt to get to now. We made it, folks. We made it. So, up on that little hill now, this is a campsite up above the lake a little bit. This is where I stayed last time. Technically I cowboy camped, but I pitched my tarp just in case. Also, this is where some bunnies ate my pole straps. They're still usable. It's a nice spot though. And there's a camp across the way there, but there doesn't seem to be anybody there. I haven't seen anybody up here yet, really. The lake's pretty green. A lot of algae, I think, so we'll see. I'm going to continue up further, up there. Hopefully be fewer mosquitoes up there as I get closer to the alpine. Holy crap, look at this meadow. I forgot how beautiful it is here. Definitely royal. Nice little breeze though, so the mosquitoes aren't as bad. But yeah, coming around this corner is pretty breathtaking. Hey look, a ranger station. Look how bleached out that is. Let's go check it out. So after walking across the meadow toward the ranger station, here is what they mean. I've never seen anybody here. These are at a lot of the popular spots. Just a place to put a tent basically. But I think, due to funding and staff, I've almost never seen them here. And this is like the week after the 4th, so it's pretty busy. But it is a weekday. They'd be here on the weekends maybe. But yeah, Fund your national parks. Get more rangers. They're important. So this is one of the amazing landmarks here that people come to see. It's a huge, I think it's basalt. I think it has a name too. I'll have to look it up and add it in text later. But it's quite enormous formation. And you can see the basalt, I think, to get right under it. Straight up. So it forms like a cave. Very cool though. Come see it. Great view down the valley. The lake's right down there. I'm swarming with mosquitoes. Doing okay, but they're way worse than I thought they were going to be. A little bit of dark clouds that way, but this way it's all blue sky, which is where I'm heading. So I don't know if I'm going to need the tarp tonight. We'll see. Holy crap, look at this meadow. Now this is a meadow. The next one up. One benefit for hiking in the evening in the summer, I think it's like 7 at this point, if you get to see the sun up so late and still setting. But this is a good meadow to see critters. I see, looks like a marmot down there. I don't know if you can see him. I am so swarmed by mosquitoes though. I'm not going to stay long. He's not going to be there when I get there. You can just barely see him. But anyway, this meadow is quite something in the evening. It'll be nice in the morning too. And then if you can see the trail, I'm going up there, up that saddle there. Oh, so cute. You gonna lay down right there? Okay, bye. Well, there's the waterfall, and speak of the devil, here's a water crossing. Trail's over there. Time to get your feet wet. Well, my feet are clean. And that was cold. Easy one though, very shallow. Look at this freaking valley. Wow. That is... I should just shut up. Bit of a precarious trail there, if you can see it. Heard a deer over there. But look at this valley. Jeez. Now we're up here, true alpine meadow. Yet another one. That's back down the valley. But let's see, such different vegetation up here. Ironically, my feet were almost dry, and then I had to hit this stream here and get my feet wet again. But one advantage to that is, you know, your feet swell when you backpack, and because of my injury, mine are a little sore, so the cold water actually helps a lot. I should be soaking them anyway, so I have wet feet right now at almost 8 o'clock at night, but in the grand scheme of it, it's actually okay. So I'm up here near the end of the trail in this basin here. There's a tarn up there around the corner, I think, which isn't even a lake, but I haven't seen anybody yet. Still some snow, and it's actually quite calm here, which means more mosquitoes, but it's not too cold. I'm still in my shorts, so I'm pretty surprised. But as you can see, the tree line has ended basically. There's a little camp there if need be, but I'm gonna keep looking around before I set up camp. Some water there, water everywhere really. We made it, folks. Oh, I think I just heard an eagle. Look at those spires. I'll find the name and put it in text on the video. Oh my gosh, look at this tarn. All snow. Snow fields here and there. Look how blue it is. I'll get down closer. Look at this view though. And look at all this debris from, you know, avalanche and rock, and so quiet. Except for me yammering on. Still haven't seen anybody though. Possible little camp here, a little bit on a knoll in these trees. You can see the tarn is right there. It looks relatively safe. Not super flat, but if I cowboy camp, my footprint will be small. So I'll keep looking though. Here's a little camp spot that's very close to the, I guess, yeah, that's probably not an eagle. That's probably a marmot, actually. I hope. But it's a little close. Very durable surface, though. So I'm going to keep looking around, but look where I am. And potentially all alone. So, something. Pretty breezy though. So it's gonna be cold tonight. So up in those trees might be better for some wind break. Okay, so I'm on the other side of the tarn now. You can see the trail over there. But it blends over into these smaller tarns. That marmot is alerting people that I'm nearby, I think. Check out that rock. Whew. But isn't this so cool, especially with the wind? It's definitely starting to chill. So I need to think about that. I am prepared, but it depends on how comfortable I want the night to be. So I'd say this is probably literally the end of the trail. I don't think so. There's some nice pools collecting here from that runoff. That feeds, I think, back down to Royal Creek, one of the other creeks. But there's no camps over there. There's no trails over there, and that looks pretty unspoiled. So I'm gonna stay clear from across there, and the trail literally ends there. And then here's those other pools, and the bigger tarn is over there, so I think that's going to be my best bet. Okay, it is 8 o'clock. I think I've chosen my camp. I'm gonna use this one in the trees because I think it'll be a little bit more wind cover and farther from the water in case any critters come by, animals go into the water, so I don't disturb them. Probably I'll have some little rodent issues here, I'm gonna guess, especially if I cowboy camp, but they'll just be more of an irritation. We'll see how it goes. So I'm gonna set up my little camp and probably go, the tarn is just behind me there, so probably set up my chair, and the only extra thing I bring to spoil myself is my chair, and I'll set up and do some reading. Made it, 8 o'clock. Bit of a long day, but wow, look where we are, folks. I think I'm alone up here too. Pretty good. So I have my puffy here, of course, mountaineering socks that I sleep in because I get cold feet. And then I have my Thermarest here, which is the insulated one. I'm blanking on the model number right now. I actually think it's on here. Not that this is an ad. Yeah, this is a Neo Air X-Therm for anyone who's interested. Not an ad, not an ad. Yeah, and so then I have my quilt under here, which is Enlightened equipment. I'll show that later. My pillow has fallen into the dirt, so that's wonderful. This is Sea to Summit pillow. This is all really good content, I bet. And that orange bag there is actually a stuff sack that, well, it doubles as a stuff sack, but it actually, you fill it with air to blow up the pad so you don't use your mouth to blow the pad up, which, because it's insulated, it can get bacteria in there and mildew and mold if you do that with your mouth. So also you just don't have to do it with your mouth that way. So it's just sort of like a fancy, tricky hack for, I mean, Thermarest built it that way. It's actually meant to do that, and you just kind of scoop air up and then push it into the Thermarest. Pretty handy. But as far as like my camp goes, I'm going to cowboy camp tonight. It looks clear enough to do so. I'll probably regret that at midnight when it starts raining, and then I have to put the tarp up. But that's it really for sleeping. That's just a Z-Pack bathtub ground cloth, you know, in case it does rain and stuff, but I'll explain that in another video sometime. It is the Dyneema, which I think is how you say it, Dyneema, which is a very durable sort of carbon-based fiber. My pack is also built from that. So that's about it. More later. Also, a couple other things about the sleep system. If you're watching this, you probably know all this already, because you know, I'm technically an amateur, but I think I've learned a lot. I have some of my own routines. You know, the quilt is it's not a down quilt. It's actually synthetic insulation, which is good if it gets wet. Down isn't as good as if it gets wet. It's heavier, I think, and it doesn't pack as well as down. But I prefer the synthetic for various reasons. But you want to take, you know, I'm laying out my quilt as quickly as possible so it can get its loft back, because it's been in a compression sack throughout the trip. So you want to lay it out so it can get that loft back, because that's how you stay warm. I do use, you can see the black there, I do use a sleeping bag liner as well for warmth, a little bit of wind protection, and you know, bugs and things a little bit, but just sort of extra because I do use a quilt. Again, shout out to, again, not an ad, but a shout out to Enlighten Equipment. Really, really awesome cottage industry company that makes custom gear. I love gear. That's part of the things I love about, oh my God, there's mosquitoes literally all over my hand as I'm filming this. Gear's half of the reason I do this, I think. But that quilt, which is a custom colors, the slate and the green I chose. I did get it for the PCT originally, but ended up, COVID hit that year, so I couldn't go on the PCT. Haven't been able to do it since, but it's been a great quilt. And I've tried a bunch of different pads, sleeping pads, but here I've kind of ended here, especially with the quilt, so I have the insulation on the ground, and I'm a side sleeper, and I'll explain that in another video. But I definitely have come to not perfect, but I've you know, trial and errored a lot of different systems over the years, and so this one's where I'm landed, especially for cowboy camping. So yeah. Check in on clothes. I forgot to mention I've also now have put on my rain gear to help basically with wind and mosquitoes. I have my puffy on for layers, and I got my my head net out for bugs. Even though I do have some bug juice on, they're definitely just ruthless tonight. So this is going to help. I even need to put some gloves on because my hands are a mess now. So yeah, I'm all layered up. I'll describe what I do with my feet because they're wet from crossing the water. So I'll explain that maybe later in another video, or maybe later in this video. I don't know. I'm winging it. Yep, so I think I'm all layered up because it is going to start getting cold now. I feel the wind. It's actually really not that bad, but I feel the wind coming. Again, the tarn, sorry to make you dizzy there, is right there behind me. So I'm going to get my chair ready and go sit by the water and eat and read. I don't typically eat at my camp. I'll explain that technique later. I'm sure people know it if you're a backpacker, but yeah, you don't want to eat where you sleep, as they say, or cook as well. And then there's a whole system with your shoes too, now that they're wet, which is pretty clever from Andrew Skirka. I think I have his last name right, who's a pro at this stuff. I'm an amateur, but he has some good techniques. I don't bring camp shoes. I just bring one set of shoes. So my trail runners, those Hoka speed goats, but because they're wet at camp, you don't want wet feet in camp. So there is a technique, believe it or not. Stay tuned. Can hear those marmots talking. Still haven't seen anybody. It's crazy to be up here all alone. I did set up my chair, which is Thermarest, ultralight chair, and then I put my pad inside to make the chair. Very comfortable. Luxury item is the word I couldn't think of earlier. I'll tell a story about the chair maybe at another time too. Thanks to a fellow colleague, wilderness ranger mentor. Actually, I'll explain it now. Let me switch over. Yeah, so the chair, the quick story on the chair, Brent Carpenter, who doesn't know that I'm doing this video or mentioning him, I don't know, I'd call him kind of he wouldn't consider himself a mentor, but I was a wilderness ranger for a season and a volunteer coordinator for the Forest Service up near Lake Tahoe in Desolation Wilderness, out of Pacific Ranger Station District, and he was one of the senior rangers there, and you know, he trained me and stuff. We still keep in contact a little bit here and there. And then 2 seasons before that, I was a volunteer wilderness ranger in the volunteer program myself. And then I ended up coordinating it as an actual job, at least for a season. But he always said we always try to do ultralight, and now I'm extremely ultralight in all of my gear. I try to be, at least. I've gotten there. There's a couple items that I add some weight on for comfort, and I'll explain that some other time. But the chair was an idea from him, actually. He always said, pick one luxury item to bring with you, and then try to be light on everything else. What's one luxury item that you really could benefit from? And he always chose a chair. And I didn't really think about it very much until you're out here for a long time, and you're like, I don't want to sit on a rock or a stump or the ground. I want a chair, especially when the days are longer. You want to relax, and that chair I showed you is actually pretty comfortable, and you can read in it. If it's raining and you're under your tarp, you're under the tarp for a long time. Sometimes you need it to be comfortable. You don't want to just sit down cross-legged on the ground for hours. So yeah, I think he was right on that one. Thanks, Brent. Okay, I think it's almost time for nighttime. I don't know, it might be close to 9:30 or something like that. Maybe later. I thought the light wouldn't hold up, but it's sort of holding up. Look at that mountain behind me, that basin. I heard some rocks crashing around behind me, but I couldn't see anything. It could be anything. I'm sure it's fine. There's the tarn. And here's my mess of a dinner. Okay, we're at the top of the basin, at the tarn still. Bed's ready, and it's 10 o'clock. But as you can see, in mid-July, still have some light, and the camera is picking up reflection as well, so it's pretty cool. Very, very quiet. Okay, so a little bit of a report. I am in bed. This quilt is again Enlightened Equipment quilt, custom. They're not cheap for sure, but they're worth it. It has some straps that connect to the sleeping pad, and then it also has a short zipper at the bottom to kind of make a mummy bag feel with some cinch cords. So I can go over that in another video. There's millions of videos out there that cover this though. So, and then shoes are drying. Socks are drying, pack is hung up, and I got some other warm stuff for later at my side. I'm gonna do a little reading, and let me flip around. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna sit in bed, read a little bit, cowboy camp my way into slumberland. Okay, good night.